And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, a vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. The vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect when some people that I knew from high school who were on Facebook were using Facebook the way that they wanted to, which was to post stuff, which is good. Except they were posting stuff that was absolute crap. And my enjoyment with playing with Facebook was to correct them. And they did not like that one bit. Part of this is also to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I am known as Shujin Tribble all over the place. You can find me under pretty much any social media under that name. I was born in Brooklyn, New York to a Roman Catholic family, raised on Long Island. I currently reside outside of Buffalo, New York. I am an unabashed atheist. Although, if I had done my dishes tonight, I would have been a pastafarian, at least in vision. I would have had my colander on the head. It's you really don't want me to be wearing that.
Dude.
I would otherwise say let's get a ramen in here, but you know what? We got time that we got to go through with everything. We have a large contingent. We got a large contingent, as you can see tonight, which is all well and good. So let's get everything started over here. Starting off north of the border to the west of us, out there. Welcome back, Dallin, and good evening.
Yeah, glad to be here again after way too long. Good evening, folks. Online, known as Dallin, was born and raised in northern Canada, born to a Lutheran family, although religion was not a very large part of my life growing up. It was there, but that was about it. Was always encouraged to keep an open mind, never stop learning, and always ask questions. That has benefited me and done well by me in my personal and professional lives thus far. And up until recently, I was a very live and let live individual until I started seeing just how badly the fundamentalists I used to laugh at as a child were now being taken seriously, and realized it was time to take a stand. And I'm pretty sure I'm on the right side.
Moving to the right on your map, over into Ontario, north of me. Good morning, Heretic Woman.
Good morning. So I'm in Ontario, as you said, and I was raised in the United Church of Canada, which is relatively liberal as far as churches go. And I did something dumb when I was a teenager, as most of us do, but I joined a Calvinist sect, and that really wasn't fun. Don't recommend it. But I've been an atheist for 26 years now, and I do whatever I can to expose religion for the, I like to say, cancer that it is, and put forth, rational thought and be a pain in the butt of any fundamentalist that I come across.
Oh, you're going to love what I'm going to be getting you with on that in a couple of minutes. Down south of the border into the U.S., into the Midwest. Good evening, Bridget.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Fitch. I was born and raised in the South, relocated to the Midwest, grew up very strict fundamentalist, and my family put the fun in the mental and fundamentalist. In 2003, I became a pastafarian, and so I got over the fundamentalism. These days, I'm an activist in fighting theocracy and patriarchy, and pushing for separation of church and state.
Moving to the right into D.C., meaning the capital, just outside of it. I guess, ARG, Unrenowned Tech.
Hi, folks. I'm Unrenowned Tech, and I am currently consuming a Count Chocula breakfast bar because I am that cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, this is good.
You're also sick as a dog.
Yeah, I know. I grew up in a mixed religious...
You have to dress up for.
Dude, it's worth it. I grew up in a mixed religious background. Half my family's Jewish, the other half's Catholic. Not necessarily Roman Catholic, but close enough. And I was raised to believe that both sides had the same God, but they had different cultural backgrounds and concepts of little rituals and things like that. But at the base of it, that they all had the same basic underlying structure of, pertaining similar to the Ten Commandments. After a while, I ended up joining a born-again Christian group. Later on, studied multiple religions, including Hinduism, and, Buddhism, and several others. And after lots of introspection, a lot of analyzing, looking at world politics, world history, everything, I realized it's all just a bunch of bullshit.
Moving across the water over to England at this point. Good morning, Chris, and welcome back.
Good morning, Julian. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm currently living in Preston in the north of England. I was raised nominally Catholic, but it didn't, never really took. And I developed an early interest in science and critical thinking. I'm now living in the north of England, where I've just started a new career in technical support, and over the last couple of weeks also been battling a rather nasty chest infection. So that's why I've not been present for the last couple of weeks.
Well, we're glad to have you back. I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, much improved.
Excellent. And going south through the channel over into France. Good morning, Joseph, and quite the departure now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I told everyone that it was an experiment, so I'll do that again in 20 years. But my name's Joseph. I'm originally from London, Ontario, Canada, not far from Deborah, and I moved here around 25 years ago, and today I'm doing everything I can to promote critical thought, getting things real, so to speak.
All right. And for those of you that are watching right now, of course, you might notice that we still have one block that we haven't quite gotten to. Yes, I know. You're all anticipating it. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast version, yeah, we got an extra person for a change tonight. Joining us tonight, straight from the third wheel of No Religion Required, the prophet Jeremiah has been very kind to give us some of his time tonight. Is it morning or evening for you, Jeremiah?
It's 10:16 for me, but thanks for having me, everybody. Should I give my little spiel? It's not that big.
Sure, you might as well. I mean, first off, just before you do that, I just want you to know I'm very appreciative that you were able to stay up past your bedtime for us. Thank you.
Oh yeah, otherwise I'd just I don't know if that's like an age joke because I'm like the youngest person in this podcasting scene, but thanks for having me, liberal Christian for most of my life until I got indoctrinated by the PC social justice warrior liberal college culture, and now I try and communicate science and all that other fun jazz and do podcasting with Bobby and Ashley. Listen to that show. It's good despite the fact that I'm on it. So.
You keep saying that. I do not believe it means what you think it means. But some people get that reference. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. And, of course, to folks that are watching live right now, if you would like to take advantage of the question and answer system, please, by all means, feel free to do so. The Crap Crew are here to answer you. And one of these days I'll actually remember what the right line is because it's October. Halloween's coming up. I should really remember the Ghostbusters advertisement on.
We're ready to believe you.
That's close enough for me right now. Thanks. So,
unless you're religious, in which case,
Yeah,
maybe not so much. So, Beth and Katie, guys, thank you very much for being there and watching. And, of course, if you were not watching live, you're really missing out on a lot of this stuff. But let me get everything started over here. As usual, with 5 minutes on the clock, with apologies to Noah, Heath, and Lucinda from The Scathing Atheist, which, by the way, Noah, we're really, really hopeful that you're feeling better. For those of you that did not hear, Noah recently, over the last 2 weeks, has cracked his rib not once, but twice, because he's been laughing that hard with what he's been doing. So, you got to
stop tickling him.
The same reasons.
Yeah.
Mine was an unfortunate gym accident.
Well.
But yeah, Noah, if you're listening, I feel your pain. Believe me, I do.
Yeah, I've been there before too.
Been there,
Yeah.
done that. Naproxen was my friend.
So,
I had a Frank accident.
Frank.
I don't know what to do with that. So, let me get everything started over here with 5 minutes on the clock. Your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. So, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened over the last 2 weeks, or give or take. We've had a number of unfortunate losses in various podcasting worlds and vlogcasting worlds, Let's Plays. For those of you that are at all familiar with a Let's Player by the name of Markiplier, really, really nice guy. One of the people that he works with committed suicide very recently. Very surprising. Was not something anybody anticipated at all. Not that anybody really anticipates this kind of thing, but took everybody by shock, as you can well imagine. We've also had somebody that I've been fortunate enough to talk to and interview with, and has a standing option to come on the Friday night show that Dallin and I do with Joey, who is not with us right now. Mr. Scott Manley. Brilliant scientist, astrophysicist. If you've ever seen the animation of the near-Earth asteroids that have been steadily accumulated in knowledge over the years, that's his work. He put that together. His father, unfortunately, passed after a long battle with cancer while the moon was covered by the Earth's shadow. That giant supermoon and the blood moon and the whole thing. And if memory serves, we've got somebody else in the podcasting circles, the atheist and skeptic circles, that have lost friends and family recently. I titled this 5-minute freestyle as We're With You. I've talked a lot about loss, my own personal loss with my wife on many, many occasions, and it has not gone unnoticed by myself that I've made this a lot about me. And forgive me, even though it's my show and officially, I try not to make it about me. Really, really hard. I really try consciously not to have that happen. But I want you guys who may or may not necessarily hear, may not necessarily see, I want you to know that we are here for you. Even if that means not doing anything. And for those of you that are kind of wondering, what do you do? How do you help people in a situation like this? Sometimes you can't. That's the most frustrating thing about it. Sometimes you can't. And as much as we don't want to admit that, we have to. Because if you push, you're just going to push someone worse. If you push, people are going to feel like they're inadequate to the task of getting through their grief. If you push, you're just going to make them hurt worse. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there. There have been many an occasion that I have typed up a response, very specifically on the Thank God I'm Atheist secret group. And they know me over there under the name Sparkle Darkle Pony. There's a thing behind that. I'll tell you about it later. But if you see a post by me with SDP listed in there, that's me. And I've had to tell people, as much as you might not like to hear it this way, just read out the entirety of it all. Congratulations. As much as it hurts now, you were fortunate enough to have somebody whose life impacted on yours, and you to them. You got the opportunity of spending time with them, for them to spend time with you, to learn, to grow, to experience some of the little tenuous time that we have on this planet together. In the case of a pet, You gave them a lifetime that they enjoyed the hell out of, to roughhouse with you, to just spend time quietly just sitting there with you. In the case of pets, we don't even share a common language. Never mind common thought patterns. We have an opportunity to be with each other. And as much as it sucks, you were lucky enough to have somebody in your lifetime that meant so damn much to you. We don't always get that lucky. Cherish it for what it was. And yes, it's going to hurt. But we'll sit here with you. And we may not necessarily share a drink of alcohol together, but maybe we'll just share a drink of coffee silently. To all of your friends. To all of our families. This is episode number 84 on the docket, Your Honor. I have been titling this one Define Insanity. And for those of you that did not read the text that went along with this one, Albert Einstein has been identified, although I think it's apocryphal, with saying the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. So tonight we're going to be talking about something that Joseph is actually the one that kind of spearheaded this. Last week, Joseph, you had talked about why do people continue to believe? Why do they believe in religion and continue to believe in it when all is said and done? So I'm kind of taking what your idea was, and I'm kind of folding it over into a couple of pieces. So you get the credit for this, or I guess you could say. So congratulations for that. And
thank you.
And since we've got him back at this point, Joey over in Pittsburgh, thank you for, well, I'm assuming that you kind of just recently woke up. So say a good morning to everybody and give a quick introduction for yourself.
Oh wait, this isn't a Power 10 show. I can't do that.
No, you can't. Not yet. I thought about it.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. My name's Joe. The other sleeping atheist, at least as of late. I at least have the decency to do it off the show. My name's Joe. I was born into an Irish Catholic family in Chicago, Illinois. Spent 8 years in the military, and I am now living in Pittsburgh as a graphic designer and an atheist, and that's it. I'm just gonna make it nice and quick. Sorry.
No, nothing wrong with that. So, like I said, I'm going to be taking part of my idea from all of that. So, Jeremiah, I'm gonna pop in on you first off because you've got the extra perspective that I wanted to have pull into this, and admittedly, you may be kind of grabbing a lot of information from what you've learned from talking with the No Religion Required crew. I'm saying crew because it's not just you. It's not just your show's hosts, primary hosts, and I know you kind of feel like the third wheel every once in a while. Bullshit on that. But you guys also get the opportunity of talking to a whole bunch of people also. So where we're going on this one is you've had the chance of talking with Bobby and Miss Ashley and finding out a lot of their story as far as to what brought them into religion and how they started to have the religious indoctrination evaporate. And I want to use that word because getting out of religion in many circumstances is a long-term thing. It doesn't just happen just suddenly for most people. So from what you've had the opportunity of learning from just them and perhaps even for yourself, where do you think the majority of I don't want to say indoctrination. where do you think the majority of influence into religious belief comes from what you've seen from who you've talked to and the whole thing? I've got my ideas, of course, but I'm going to try to keep those out of the equation for the most part right now.
Influence? Can you influence of indoctrination?
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't want to say indoctrination, because that's the easy cop out, because it
Right.
happens so often. But I want to go with, first off, people that might be of the age of reason that have slid into, I'll use that, slid into religious belief.
Mhm.
Or do you have any perspective on that one? I mean, getting kids early and then getting them from the beginning. I mean, that's an easy one.
But don't hesitate to
Yeah.
use the word indoctrination if it's the most accurate.
I mean, I
Admittedly,
do
yes.
think that's the largest one, but Shujin seems to be, implying other influences, such as, adults, like college-age adults, for example, converting to something new too. Is that something you're thinking of as well?
Yeah, let me backtrack a second, because I don't think that I laid out really how I want to end up playing this guy out just yet.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, indoctrination for the young, for the infant, is an easy one to hit on, and I have every intention on hammering that one a little bit later, very intentionally so, because that's arguably the biggest one. But I want to try to get the more fringe items out of the way first, because they're very few, and we got to kind of have to work on those. And childhood indoctrination is an easy slam dunk.
Right.
That's why I wanted to see if you had anything, if the rest of the crew's got anything too.
Well, as far as what I've seen besides indoctrination is a powerful one. That's the obvious one. But I think a lot of it comes down to community. I had the privilege of seeing Hemant Mehta come to a Sunday assembly, and his entire speech was on what religion does that atheism doesn't do as well. And the thing is, the warm fuzzies you get from religion, regardless of whether you agree with them or not, a lot of people really, really have this resonating warm fuzzy feeling that they feel, this is where I belong. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think of Caitlin McKenna, who we had on our show. If you listen to her story and listen to what happened, she got kicked out of her home because she was no longer a Mormon, and her parents just hated the fact that she thought Mormonism was so full of crap, and they did not allow her to criticize Mormonism an inkling because they identified so strongly with that. Identification is super important to religious people, even if it's just an idea. And so, her parents, in fact, it turned out they got through hard times. They got through depression because of the warm fuzzies that the church provided and the community. And that's something we may not offer as well as other quote-unquote religious communities, whether or not we're a religious one or not. It's just, I think it comes down to the warm fuzzies and finding your place. So
It makes some kind of sense.
So if I
Go
can
right ahead.
pick up a bit where Jeremiah's left off, feeling that that there is a place for you to fit into on there is an incredible feeling on there, and feeling like you belong somewhere, and you have a place in a larger sort of community or circle of people, is an incredibly powerful feeling. And this is something because in person I tend to be quite sort of socially awkward, and for a long time I've been on sort of the outside of many communities looking in, and that's a very frustrating experience. So that is again something that religious religions do very well, until someone doesn't quite fit in, as unfortunately Caitlin and many others have found out, that rather than sort of accepting difference, they will very often shun and ostracize people that no longer have a place.
Fair enough there.
And if there isn't, and on the subject of what atheists don't do so well as a community, on there isn't as quite as widespread as there is with religion, a variety of places for people to fit in. But there are many groups, things like local sort of humanist and secular groups, skeptics in the pub meetings, all kinds of other non-religious, general sort of social things. So for anyone that's struggling with that kind of thing, then these groups are normally fairly well advertised online. There's a lot that are available through sort of meetup.com and other social tools. And it's amazing how welcoming, and accepting these communities are.
Well, they're accepting and welcoming until they find out you might not conform in some way.
I mean, that goes for the religion ones, but for the humanist groups,
ones. Yeah, the humanist ones are
they
great.
will. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with the religious groups, because a lot of people will say, well, yeah, they'll accept anybody, and the church sign says everyone welcome, and we're all family, and that kind of crap. And you go in there, and as soon as they find out that you don't conform in some way, then it's a problem.
Yeah, and the only reason I would say that atheists don't have that sort of community is just because we don't have the infrastructure yet. We just don't have the influence. But there's communities out there.
Rapidly.
Yep, it's growing. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point to hit off of. The idea of having community, of having a cohesion for a group, especially for a group that comes out to, let's call it 15%. It's probably more like 13, maybe 10, but let's call it 15, just to work with a number. 15 people out of 100 would identify as non-religious. I guess is probably the right way. Non-religious or atheist. Or agnostic, if you wrap it all together, I believe is what the right number comes out to. That means for yourself, there's 5 people around you that are religious in some fashion or other. That's one person out of a family, really. When you think about it, them's bad odds when you get started with that. The person that you were speaking with and speaking about, Jeremiah, I remember hearing about that. That really sucked. Let me backtrack a second off of that. Bridget, let me hit you a second, because you're kind of the case study on this one. A while ago, we ended up having Ashley, who was on Atheists on Air with Cash months and months and months ago at this point, because she was feeling completely out of it out in Oklahoma, I believe it was, and didn't know who to talk to, and turned to them. And we got her an opportunity to have her voice, and now she's doing fairly well for herself, as I understand it. For you, having the opportunity of getting help, getting infrastructure, getting family, shall we say, of conscience, which I'm patenting that term, by the way, now. That's not that very easy at all, is it? In some areas. You do realize you got to hit that button again, right? Your bridge microphone.
Crap.
There it is.
I can say that.
You can say that.
Yeah. The first step is really, really hard, and I think the hardest part is knowing where to even start. I went to a con about 3 weeks ago, and there were a lot of first-timers there that didn't even know that these things existed.
And just to make sure everybody's aware, which con are we talking about?
This one was a pasta con.
Located?
But people don't know that we're out here, and why would they know that we're not, that we're out here? We're not that visible. And it's funny to meet people that think that they were the only one. They didn't know any other atheists, and it's like, no, there's actually thousands of us. And so finding a community is a huge deal. I found the community about 5 years ago, and that has become my family.
Yeah, a friend of mine is actually really working hard towards that. Christella, who's part of the Board of Humanists Canada, she started something called the Atheists in Light Ontario Network, and she started off by trying to find every possible atheist group or meetup or whatever she could find, and putting all of that information in a central location, so that if you found her, she calls it Aeon Network or Eon, if you found it, you could find any group that existed near to you to find one to go to, because we have people, like in our meetups here, we have people coming from 2, 3, 4 towns away, and we're glad to have them, but then we'll realize, hey, did you know there's a group actually a bit closer to you, and that might be more convenient to them. But she's really worked hard to kind of put that network together to make it easier for people to find each other. And now that she's, as far as she knows, she's found everybody that she could in Ontario, she's branching out nationwide and trying to get in touch with every group that she can find nationwide, and categorize it by province and city, so that if you're a new atheist, you can pop onto the Aeon Network and go, oh, there's a group here and a group here. Well, that one meets on a better night for me, although this one's closer and whatnot, and you can find a group that you belong to. But one of the ladies in our regular group, she's from a town close to an hour away, and she was so desperate for companionship, like she's an empty nester and whatnot. She actually went to church with a friend of hers for a year just for that sense of community. And she said after a year, she said, I had to tell my friend I had to stop going because I come out of every service way angrier than I went in, and it wasn't that productive, and so she stopped going to church with her friend. But now she'll come to our meetups, and that's an outlet for her.
Well, another alternative that's fairly recent is different cities are starting to have OASIS groups, and they have Sunday assembly. It is a secular group, but for people who miss the feeling of church and companionship and music, that's available for them. And I would just have people Google OASIS and see which cities have one. And if there isn't one, then find some people and start one. But it's a great movement.
Yeah. Now, Joseph, let me grab you for a second. The way that the way that the religious structure is societally over in France, I've learned from specifically because of you, is entirely different than what it is over here in North America. For you guys looking for secular alternatives or atheistic groups of sort, it's basically a non-issue for you guys, isn't it?
No, it's religion is basically, it's something you keep in the closet here. I mean, it's like atheism there. It's more tradition, has more to do with the family. If the family's deeply into Catholicism, then they'll go through all the rituals. They tend to be quite lazy about it, which means they don't have regular church attendance, but they'll go for funerals and marriages and all that. But like I said recently on Facebook, if you announce yourself as an atheist here, you'll get a funny look, or somebody will look at you and just say, how quaint and ineffective.
How droll.
At that point, they'll look at you and go, "You're from America, aren't you?"
Yeah.
To that end, then, Joey, I'm going to get you at this point because you and I, we came up through Catholicism very specifically. So the idea of not going to church nearly as much as what they're expecting, but going for specific holidays or specific life events. I got to assume that for you, it was, a lot of that was the same thing for you also.
Well, can I just add that?
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. That as long as you tease, they don't care if you go or not.
Okay. Joey? Like I was saying, I'm assuming that for you it was pretty much the same thing for most of your family, where it was just the life event kind of thing.
Yeah, up until the day.
Here it comes.
Up until the day that right after my mother had divorced my father, because my father was an abusive SOB, shall we put it gently. She moved to Ohio. She moved with all 7 kids to Ohio, and because that's where her family was, and had gone to take my youngest brother and sister to the local Catholic church to, get ready for communion. And quite literally at the door, the minister, father, pastor, whatever you want to call him, came out and said, yeah, there is no way that I am allowing those bastard children into my church.
Flag on the play.
For those of you who are confused by this, note that my mother is was my father's second wife, his first wife having divorced him. The Catholic Church doesn't recognize divorce, and therefore doesn't recognize my mother's, didn't recognize my mother's marriage to him, and therefore all products of that marriage are bastards by definition of the actual definition of the word.
They hadn't filed an annulment, had they? With the church.
Yeah, see, that's where it gets to be funny, because on my side, I am a retroactive bastard. Short version, my parents got divorced. Sorry, my mom filed for divorce after 33 years, I believe it was. Dad, not to be outdone, filed for an annulment. The particulars of it are not important. And I had to explain to him, Dad, that makes me and my brothers bastards now. You know that, right? No, it doesn't work that way. Dad, we used to watch Star Trek together. You understand how temporal mechanics work, right? No, it doesn't work. All right, fine, Dad, whatever. So technically, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, we are. Whatever.
But if you make a sizable enough donation, I'm sure that can be overlooked.
Yes, well, that's all well and good. We'll just change the natural order of the universe, because, oh, right, Catholic Church, right? I'm sorry, never mind.
Yes, where beaver is fish.
Yes. And by the way, even though we're not about to sing it, Mr. Minchin, thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful story in song about the Pope. You know what I'm talking about? Great. Those of you that don't know, look it up. Tim Minchin, the Pope.
Oh
The
yeah.
Pope song.
Have a good time with that. Don't have any kids nearby, though. Actually, no. Actually, do have the kids nearby, because they need to. Yeah, they need that.
You know, next time I get together with my nieces who are being raised Catholic, I may have to play that.
That might be now. Since
maybe not the 4 and 5-year-old, but you know.
We'll see how that plays out. So, the feeling of community, the feeling of pulling in, being together with a group of people, that's a good piece. That's a good comforting piece when you're past the age of reason. And Beth, who's watching and chimed in, says in the Q&A currently, quote, "Community is oh so important. I'd be lost without the online community." Regretfully, there is nothing remotely close to where I live, 3 hours minimum. We can understand that. It's hard to find folks, and Bridget especially. I mean, you trying to find groups, like you said, is like pulling freaking teeth in a lot of cases. Trying to find people that are not so afraid that they won't come out is got to be a pain in the ass.
Well, it's hard to even know where to start. I found the community by accident. I mean, completely by accident. My husband bought me an iPod for Christmas one year, and I didn't even know what a podcast was. I had never heard of an iPod before, and found this little bitty podcast out in Peoria, Illinois, and sent an email to the guys who ran the podcast and said, "Hi, I'm stuck in the Midwest. I don't know any other atheists, and I found your podcast." And so they asked me, they gave me some recommendations on people to friend. And next thing I know, I've got 800 Facebook friends, and I'm going to cons and meeting people. And it started with an iPod.
And actually, mine's kind of similar. I got of course, as everybody likes to rib, I have a BlackBerry. My previous BlackBerry, which was not a full-on smartphone, but it was the first one that I had that had a podcatcher on it. And I'm looking at it going, what the hell's a podcast, right? And so I looked at it, and I thought, I'm trying to think of what topic should I look for, because it's saying, search for something that interests you. And I'm like, oh, atheists. And I found two, because of course the podcatchers that Blackberries have don't necessarily catch everything that's out there. In fact, they're really crappy at it. But I found it was two shows that they actually produce very, very sporadically. But I found those and listened to those for a while, and it wasn't until David Michael went on one of the shows that I was listening to, and I didn't even think to look online, because I've been a solitary atheist for a long, long time, and here it's not that big a deal, right? So I looked it up, and when I heard David Michael, because Mormonism is a pet project of mine, so I was like, I have to watch this, and that's when I watched. He was on. I listened to him, and then he said he was going to be on Atheist on Air, and just hanging out in the chat room is where I met all the people that I am really good friends with now, like Beth and Boda and Shujin. I saw Shujin hanging around there the first time, and and that's actually just coming up. I joined Twitter a year ago in July, and that's when I started sort of being more active, so it's coming up on a year I've been doing my show next month.
Congratulations on that.
Well, it's a good thing you discovered podcasting, considering all the bandwidth of podcasting you put out now. So
yeah, there is that.
The community created a monster.
Yeah, created a monster. Yeah. In fact, I'll plug it later, but New Atheist Apocalypse coming out this week. Yay!
Yay!
That's the second half of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
come on,
me,
it's not that much. Go for it.
Yeah, for me, I was always a bit of a geek and science nerd, and quite skeptical, and I didn't know there were any groups of either atheists, humanists, anything out there, and in a way I'd never really gone looking. But about, say, 5 years or so ago, Merseyside Skeptics over here in the UK ran a fairly major campaign highlighting the nonsense that is homeopathy, and starting efforts to try and get it removed from the NHS. So this was all covered on the BBC. Saw it on the news one day at work, looked up and I thought, who on earth are these people? And I found out, wow, there's groups of people with similar interests and stuff that get together regularly. And I was there at the my first event that night, which was Simon Singh giving a lecture in one of the the pubs they meet at in Liverpool. So that was pretty good, and on there, so that was how I found the community. But any sort of skeptical or news stories or whatever will often mention which groups are running it.
Now, if memory serves, that was the 1023 campaign, if I remember right?
That's right.
Okay. For those of you that want to find out a little bit more about that one, we'll see if we can get a link for that in the show notes a little bit later. The 1023 campaign is referencing to the distribution of molecular density.
It's the Avogadro number, which is 10, which is
10 to the 23rd.
Something raised
6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. I'm a chemical engineering grad student.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Jeremiah. Yeah. And that's basically the number of atoms in a mole, which is a chemical measurement of amount of quality of a substance. And if you
high school chemistry flashbacks.
Yeah. And if you dilute something beyond that point, which is what homeopathists do, then essentially you've got none of the active ingredient left.
Yeah, we'll have to specifically talk about homeopathy sometime in the near future. However, here's where it gets to be interesting. Like I said, I wanted to hammer specifically onto this guy, but before I do that, Katie, who's also watching, thank you very much. In the Q&A, I can't find another try this again. I can't find another heathen horse person or a dog rescue person. Katie, only because we were kind of talking about it before the show started, I'm a resident furry in the group. So, horse person, yeah, that's fine. My Little Pony, I'm right there with you. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong with that.
I know lots of dog rescuers that are also heathens. So maybe I can hit them up.
Sure, you can always see that. So, like I said, it was the easy one to go ahead and hit. So let's go ahead and bang this one out really quickly. And with the idea that perhaps you won't get kicked off really quickly on Renault Tech, childhood indoctrination, Catholicism, being baptized a couple of days after you shoot out the chute. How much fun is that?
I have no memory of it.
Exactly my point. Thank you. You hammered it home perfectly.
Well,
Joey!
Don't forget the wedding tackle mutilation. And
Oh, yeah.
well, yeah, indoctrination. It's not bad enough that you get it from your parents or you get it from the church. You also have that wonderful thing called Sunday school, or if you're as unlucky as I was, actual Christian school, Catholic school. And what they say about the nuns is true. They don't fly, and the rulers really, really hurt.
Yep. So Tech, yeah. You don't remember it? I don't remember.
That's a shame because I've heard that the nuns is the largest growing category in the U.S.
Well, that's only because they've got middle-age spread going on. By the way, Jeremiah, just so that you understand about this, I need to find you're on the West Coast, if I remember right, correct?
I'm in Colorado, which is west in general.
Okay, you're in Colorado. I eventually want to be out there for reasons we will discuss at another time on a possible Power of 10, just before we end the series. So we'll do that one. I just want to find out, if you hear on the news that anybody has run over what they thought was a penguin, it might not be a penguin that got loose from the zoo. It might be a really, really short nun. Just keep that in mind for later. I don't know which it's likely to be, just in case it happens.
Okay, we have a lot of those in Colorado.
It might also be Peter Dinklage in a tuxedo.
It could be. I have no idea.
Whoa. I wanted to start a rock group of nuns called the Bad Habits.
The Bad Habits. Well, I knew somebody who had a nun persona in the Society for Creative Anachronism called Sister Insubstantia, and she carried a duct tape cross in a violin case and called it her weapon of mass destruction.
Wow.
I wanna get together a giant athletic event for nuns to toss things, and it can be the nunchuck competition.
Yes.
Oh my God, the
Oh,
nuns
God.
are out tonight.
the nun.
Ooh,
I have
yeah.
been smoking. Let me put it this way. I have dealt in the military with armor that involved composites of depleted uranium. I have been exposed to high frequency RF radiation. I've been a smoker for about 14 years,
Just tonight.
but it's just tonight that pun that gave me cancer. Thank you very much.
No, my point was that you smoked 14 years worth of cigarettes. That's just tonight. That's about it. I mean, for those of you that are listening and can't see his face right now, he is right now got that whole bottom lip quiver kind of. You're welcome. You're welcome, Joey. So okay, the childhood thing. Getting back on track over here because this is gonna be bad. I'm sorry.
What's their track?
You know what? You're gonna pop your head up. I'm gonna hit you like a whack-a-mole. Sure, go ahead. Childhood indoctrination. What kind of things go on over in France?
Oh, who cares about France?
I do
Indoctrination.
because I'm not there. That's why. It's my
Yeah.
show. God damn it! Get on the friggin'. Come on.
Honestly, it's the family that does most of the work here. Just taking them, with their first communion and I don't even know what they call it, confirmation.
Mhm.
Just basically the rituals like that.
Yeah, Joey. Just to get you one more time for a second. I mean, again, not too different than what you and I went through. Where it's just mostly just the milestone events.
Yeah.
Which basically just sucks. And I had a joke I was going to use here, and I can't really remember what the hell it was. Whatever.
Those are also meant to be reinforced throughout your life because you have them when you're a child, you have them when you get married, and then you have them when all of your children have to go through them.
Yeah. Oh, and the joke I was going to make now that I remembered about it, Joseph, was that the mention that you did of the family. That's great for Italians over here. That's a wonderful way of putting it very nicely. That people will break your legs if you don't go ahead with all the indoctrination stuff. Thank you.
Well, when you talk about that too, like I know in Catholicism you guys have the whole godparents thing, and in the Protestant tradition that we had, they didn't really call them godparents, but I remember like at a christening where they would actually have the entire congregation stand up and sit and basically swear, yeah, we're gonna make sure this kid like becomes whatever we are. And that's like when you think about it, that's really damn creepy.
Yeah.
You've got like 100 or 200 or whatever people say, oh yeah, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that kid toes the line and does exactly what we do. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a congregation to indoctrinate a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, from the inside, it doesn't appear creepy or weird.
No,
because
it
basically
it doesn't.
what everyone is thinking basically is that it means that they're going to look out for the kid, and try and teach them to do the right thing.
It does, but when you look at it from what you are actually committing to do, like, you're right. When people do it, they don't think of it in those terms. And to be perfectly honest, most of the people that are saying that have no intention in following through on it, thank goodness. But, that's what they're actually swearing to, is that I'm going to do everything I can to make this kid believe the same thing all the rest of us do. Even though that's
in the church.
Yeah.
That's actually
exactly.
one of the lines from I think it's from Lutheran baptism is will you do you promise or pledge to raise this child in the church?
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, having sat in the pews, having witnessed these baptisms myself, I thought the same thing, that you and Chris just said, where it was, yeah, going to teach the kid to be a good person, reject Satan. Okay, that means get rid of the
Don't be a
project. Yeah,
don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I looked at it. Yeah, I looked at it from a much more not so much a hate everything that's not of the church, and just more of a be a person in your community.
I don't think it's even, hate it. Like in some denominations, I'm sure it is hate everything that's not the church. But your average one, I don't think it's even that. But it's just that whole idea that, we're going to make sure that they learn our way before anything else. And the idea that we're teaching what we think as truth. You're right. And you don't know, well, in fact, a lot of us know it's not truth. And that's just, like I say, nobody actually really thinks of it that way, but that's in reality what they are swearing to, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah, before we get to past this, because we're just about ready to finally go over the lip of this guy. Tech, for you, for the Jewish side of the family, how much is there in that respect, as far as to the family and the local community is going to push and support? Is there anything even remotely close to the same way?
All right, first off, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great, because my video is stuttering like crazy.
No, you're good.
You have to understand that I'm kind of an anomaly. The neighborhood that I grew up in was predominantly Catholic/Christian. Okay, we were the only Jewish household on the block. Okay, so when the menorah went up, it was just our house. It was nobody else. A little electric menorah in the window. Nobody else had that. It was just us, and it was only one half of the family. What my mom did do, because my mother's side of the family is Jewish, she taught us the cultural history of our family, of the religious background, the history of Judaism in general, the cultural traditions, the rituals, the holidays. One of the ones that she taught me in particular that I'm actually thankful for is Yom Kippur, Jewish Day of Atonement. What happens is from sundown the previous day to sundown the day of Yom Kippur, you don't do any work. You don't have any electricity. You don't turn on any TVs or radios. You don't answer a telephone. You don't do anything. But you spend the entire day reflecting on the year between the last Yom Kippur and the one that you're currently observing, and you reflect on all the things that you did that were wrong. Not, oops, I accidentally used aluminum nails instead of steel nails. It's like, no. I went down the street, I was pissed off, and I hit Billy. You reflect on those things that you did, and you pray for forgiveness. One of the things that taught me was to be able to reflect on my life choices and how they were affecting me and how they were affecting others. And that's cute. So a lot of those cultural traditions, not all of them, some are truly atrocious, but some of them actually have really good effects if observed properly. But they were never, I don't remember anybody telling my mom that she had to raise a good Jewish boy. I don't remember anybody telling my dad he had to raise a good Catholic son. I don't remember seeing anybody do that to my parents. If it did happen, it didn't happen around us kids. I will admit that my parents were very good at sheltering us, both my sister and I, from some of the really nasty things that we see in the world today. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of doing the opposite with my son. I'm kind of telling him little by little as he sees things on the news, why things happen, why these people do this, what their mentalities are, and having that mixed religious background, I can actually see the various sides of the coins, and so he's not going to be as sheltered. He's going to go into the world with his eyes wide open. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like religions, is because they don't want you to see everything around you as is. They want you to see it the way they want you to see it.
Yeah,
Half blinded.
See, now that's perfectly jumping us right over the end of this lip and into the big bowl of this whole damn thing in just a couple of seconds. Before we do that, Chris, don't do anything. But for everybody who's watching on the video right now, I think it's just glorious right now that the way that you're positioned with the light overhead, you look like you've got a halo over you right now, and I love that.
Hey, that is not what the buddy Jesus does.
For those of you that are listening to the audio portion, this is for you to go ahead and check back on the video. Your time on that is an hour. It's about 56 minutes.
He is just missing the T.
Right.
The dude abides.
Exactly what Jesus does.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Jesus.
You can save the explanation of that for a Power of 10 show.
It's a sign.
We'll do that. So now that we're going,
It's a shocker.
now that we're going over the lip on this whole thing, here's where the whole piece comes in. Now, with these shows, I understand that some people may find it a little bit long to do the setup into where the meat and the potatoes really is, but it's always really important to understand the why. I mean, that's the biggest thing about this show. Want to get the baseline into place first before we jump into it all. So, Jeremiah, I know that I know there's a lot of hurry up and wait for being in this kind of a collection, but here's where you get to really shine a lot. For yourself, first off, you were a student. You've been a student. Don't go making that face. It's going to look like that for the rest of your life. And
boys and girls, that's a lie. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You're welcome.
The more you know.
So for you, as
long as I've been making that face, my hands haven't gotten hairy, which is what other people have said. But
Oh boy.
Dude, you should see my knuckles.
Can you still see
More hair
it?
on my knuckles in my head.
Yeah, apparently he's not blind either, so.
Not yet.
you guys are not helping me at all.
My eyesight's for crap, though.
That's just great. Anyway, so the point being, pain in the ass. The point being is that as a science student, especially, your falling out, your religious evaporation, like I said, that's the word I want to use as much as possible now. Was that a quick transition? Was that did it just take its time to go out for you? I don't want to talk about Ashley or Bobby for a second. You, in particular, how did that play out for you?
Well, to be honest, I don't think the science had anything to do with it. And, you can find tons of really smart religious people, and it's, oh, poop, my printer's going off. But, the science doesn't have necessarily anything to do with it because people can compartmentalize really easily. But for me, it was more of, actually, I read a lot of Richard Feynman, and I really, really, really admired what he had to say. But his way of thinking was so systematic, and I think I was trying to map off him. So after reading all his books and watching all his YouTube videos, every little thing I applied to in my life suddenly became a systematic analysis of behaving the right way and thinking the right way about it. So before I became a believer or non-believer, I was thinking about things like, if I ever have kids, do I ever want to tell them that Santa Claus exists, because I don't want to lie to them? But also, after that, I think it was like I finally had to sit down and see what the Bible actually said. And when I found out what it actually said, I had to be like, well, crap, now what? So it was relatively rapid. Within an hour, so.
It worked out. Tech, you were wanting to get in on that.
Why am I muted?
No.
Yep.
Don't know, you were, but then you weren't, and then you are again.
There he
There you
goes.
go. And I've got nothing.
That's really strange.
All right, well, we've had this before. Yeah, we see you. We're just not getting anything from you because even though it says you're not muted. Try talking again?
I was going to say, try muting yourself and talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting nothing from you at the moment. Hold on a second. Let me try from this side. Let me try muting you and then unmuting you. And I can't force a mute on you. Yeah, it would appear that the audio's hung up on you again. You want to
Yeah,
pop out,
weird.
pop in?
What the hell?
There you are.
Oh, we can hear.
No,
we
now
hear
we can
something
hear
there.
you.
Talk tech.
Are you
No,
talking?
you're muted out again.
Yeah, this time it says you're muted.
Yep. I'm gonna. I don't even have control over the mute for you at this point. See, folks, this is what happens on live TV. This is great, isn't it? Great, isn't it wonderful?
I think I personally have to apologize because I think I've imported the equipment issues that No Religion Requires always brings with it. So
that's okay, because usually they blame me, so I'm glad to have somebody else take responsibility.
yeah, but it's definitely my fault. So sorry, Shujin. Don't invite me onto any of your shows, people.
Don't worry. I'll make you feel much better. You're an ass, okay? How's that? You feel better now?
He feels loved.
Yeah.
All right.
I think you have to say that as ass.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do that. I
have the accent.
Yeah, try it one more time.
Someone
Okay, I heard you cough.
Oh, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to ask Jeremiah if he had read the book. Surely you must be joking, Mr. Feynman.
That's like my favorite book.
He wasn't joking, and don't call him Shirley.
God damn it! Really?
Yeah. Anybody
Really?
who wants
Hey,
some real insight into Mr. Feynman,
Okay?
if anybody ever wants some real insight into Mr. Feynman's mind and his life, without having to read all the sciencey books, although those things are great, the book that I just mentioned is probably the best thing you can read.
You guys gotta look at Jeremiah there.
I'm modeling it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
He's hamming it up.
I also I own the book and I own the audiobook too because I like to listen to it when I drive too.
Nice. Yeah. For those that are unaware, Mr. Feynman, Dr. Feynman, professor, teacher, researcher, Feynman was a brilliant man. A brilliant man. I don't want to get off on a tangent on this. Jeremiah, when we get off the air, want to bring me back to Feynman because there's something about him I want to talk with you about. But we need to keep scooching on at this point. So going with this, for you, your deconversion happened pretty quickly, and a good portion of it was when you just went looking at the stuff and you realized, well, crap, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't work. This doesn't. What's the expression that keeps getting used? Comports to reality.
Sure.
So, as part of No Religion Required now, and yes, I'm asking you to kind of snoop a little bit, shall we say?
Yeah, well, I represent all of No Religion Required. Let me be clear. I speak for all of them.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
This ought to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. He's going to sell us the friggin' bridge to Brooklyn at this rate. All right, so for
He can't. I already own it.
Well, that's all well. You and Trump, that's great. Specifically for Ms. Ashley, because she was the one that was having a harder time of really understanding it all, and she specifically had not read the Bible until starting to do it with the show. Hearing the way that Ms. Ashley has reacted to hearing the stories of the Bible and the god-awful crap that it is in a lot of respects. And for those of you that have never read the Bible or heard anybody read it to you,
Definitely
wow.
read it.
Oh, or it minimally had somebody. Noah, Heath, and Lucinda, wow, you should really listen to Scathing Atheists as they tear through it, because shit.
I just want to know how they stayed sane.
I don't know. They're not done yet.
They read it on a pressed time scale.
Yeah, I'm going with alcohol, copious amounts of alcohol.
I'm thinking subatomic chemistry.
Well, in Heath's case, we know it was dead baby jokes and crack cocaine.
And puppy rape jokes, yes. All right,
Puppy rape, yes. Puppy rape.
For watching how Ms. Ashley has had to deal with it, where all of the assumptions that she had have come crashing down. A perfect example, she had joked that she did not realize that Sodom and Gomorrah were places as opposed to people, because she didn't understand it. What's it been like seeing how this train wreck of mental change has happened?
Well, in her case, you're definitely certainly right. Like, that's definitely been what's changed her mind, and she's said so as much herself. But it does. She was very skeptical of the atheist community. Like, she was critical of Bobby for his religious beliefs when he was a Buddhist, because she was able to point out holes. And it also goes back to the community again, because she was critical of Bobby when he was an atheist, because, like, one of her things was, like, what is something positive about the atheist community? And Bobby had a bit of a hard time then, at the time, thinking of positive things. But, I think the Bible has definitely brought out her opinions, and just when you read it in detail, to the level of detail that we do, you realize whatever somebody is trying to write down there and trying to sell, it just doesn't make sense. Like, even when I read the Bible with them, I've read everything that we've covered. I'm reading the Bible on my own, and even when we cover it, I discover so many things that are just completely incongruous with each other and itself. And when you go into the nitty-gritty and try and analyze everything, I don't see how anyone reads it and it just doesn't fall apart.
It's just a prop. I mean, it just basically allows whoever's holding it to say whatever the hell they want.
Well, it goes back to what I said before.
Yeah, that's probably because most of the people they're speaking to haven't studied it in any depth, or have only read the approved passages. I mean, if anyone listening does decide to read the Bible for the first time, I know it's not recommended as a primary source, but for each of the books in the Bible, Wikipedia has got a great breakdown, including information on what is known about when these books were written, who wrote them, what some of the stranger passages they're talking about. It's a great example was the Book of Exodus, which is all about the Hebrews leaving Egypt, and there's no archaeological evidence or anything for any massive numbers of Hebrew people in Egypt, or of the Exodus and the 40-year trek through the desert. But again, when you find out that this is actually a novelization of the end of the Babylonian exile, and Babylon being in the opposite direction to Egypt, you wouldn't expect any that kind of evidence.
All right, Tech, you're trying to get in there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it kind of boils down to what I said earlier, that religions want you to not see the world as is, but how they want you to see it through religious lenses. And so when you have the Bible, which has multiple sources, multiple stories, multiple things like that, what they do is they'll take, when they want to shape your worldview, they'll find the appropriate section that conforms to their worldview, depending on where they stand, whether they're a priest in a church or whatever, or a pastor or whatever, and how they see the world, and then they'll use that section of the Bible that conforms to it, even though it might have conflicting passages somewhere else, and use that to shape your view. Whereas if you go to a different church with a different priest who has the conflicting view, they'll cite the other passage, and it's all religious lensing. It's like blinders on a horse. Okay, they want you to see what they want you to see.
It's all about them giving orders, and basically, the Bible, it's like an appeal to antiquity, an appeal to quote-unquote authority, and, if the preacher has a new order to give, it's damn certain that there's something in the Bible somewhere that will authorize him to give whatever order he's giving.
Yep, that's perfect. That's a perfect light-up to the image that I'm sharing to everybody on the show right now.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And for those of you that are listening, on just the audio portion, it is a picture of a Bible open to Ephesians, with lots and lots and lots of highlighter and lots of pen markings, and the text on it says, "If you're going to post Bible verses on Facebook, don't be upset when atheists post the ones you've never read."
Like my favorite, Ezekiel 23:20.
I'm pretty sure that we most definitely know which one this is, but Jeremiah, you know which one that is.
Yeah, Jeremiah is familiar.
Lay it on.
Oh, geez, I can't quote it off the top of my head.
I have it memorized, actually.
Okay, please do it, because I don't have it
Actually, hold on a second, Jeremiah. The fact that you just said you can't quote it off the top of your head, that you have no idea.
I know which one it is.
To be fair, not to be confused with Ezekiel 25:17.
Correct. No, 23:23 is, and she lusted after her lovers, whose members were like that of donkeys, and whose emissions were like those of horses.
And you know what? Right with that one, with the whole My Little Pony thing earlier tonight. Mwah. Good night, everybody. That's it. That's our show.
And if it was written in today's day and age, it would say the emissions like that of a gas pump.
Yes. Well,
I don't know. I think the horse metaphor still works.
So what you're
I
saying
think
that the woman there, they just got to kick out a really good bukkake then.
Yes, pretty much.
That or had a really bad.
Wait, I thought the Japanese started that. You're telling me that bukkake started in the Dark Ages?
Oh,
It looks that way, yes.
Wow.
That's still probably one of the funniest moments on my show was when Ashley read that for the first time. That was beautiful. She's like, "What? What did you say?" Like, keep reading.
Read it again.
Yeah.
And so begins the romance novel.
Yes. Jeremiah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't memorize things that are involved with donkey jizz, but that's just me. Like, in my defense, that's not what I'm really interested in, but I could see how, Deb might, not to judge her. Like, that's not anything against her. That's, like, her thing. I'm supportive.
Jeremiah, stick around for a Power of 10 show. Maybe she'll show you her water bottle.
Different strokes for different folks, and the definition of stroke can vary from person to person as well.
Yeah.
So,
And don't forget, different throats.
Yes. Thank you. I was about to say that.
Have you seen the water bottle yet, Jeremiah?
Oh, I'm sure. No, I actually haven't. Show it to me.
No.
Right
Like I said, you come back for Power of 10, we'll show it to you.
Okay.
When we go off air, maybe remind me.
Also, the inner nerd in me has to say that I'm wondering why you call it Power of 10 when it's multiple of 10.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because the Power of 10 is episode 1, 10, 100, 1,000. So you might be waiting for a while if you go by Power of 10.
I'm so glad I'm not the only person who thought of this, because I'm just sitting here for all these episodes silently going in the back of my head going, it's wrong, but I'm not going to correct them It's not my show. It's not my show. I
No.
want to correct them. I don't want to
Because we're
correct them.
cranking
I
the
don't want to
power
get
of
kicked
sanity
off.
by a power of 10.
No, it's okay because I'm a guest and I'm allowed to be an asshole to Shujin.
You know what? Here, all right. Before we get back into the goddamn show, let me
like
go.
him. We have him back.
Yes.
You know what?
Everybody, jump on the guest.
Okay then. Jake
Jumps, yes.
By the way, Jake for Wharton.
Yay,
Now I understand what it's
bye.
like for you when you're trying to edit everything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Jake. I'll try not to be that much of a crap fest for you. Okay, why is it a Power of 10 episode? Because it was a takeoff of the old advertising campaign. Behold the power of cheese. It is the power of 10.
Those
That
must have been
is
some
not-
cookies. I
That
didn't leave them
explains the
cookies.
puns.
I left them cheese.
Yeah. So that's why this now.
And that's how he flies.
Yes, Jeremiah. Just so you understand, you're not so much of an asshole. Yes, I'll get away with saying. My daughter constantly tells me and reminds me because she's got the thing too. So you know what? You're not the only one. So there you go. You're happy? Good. Look at him. Look at him smile. Look at him smiling over there. He's all muted now. You know what?
He's got the whole Stewie thing going, victory is mine!
Great. See, the only one that hasn't given me shit about it is Bridget. Thank you, Bridget. You're so nice to me.
Hey, I haven't.
You know what? I don't care about you. You're just over the border. I
Yeah.
can come over there and I can...
You could come over and what?
Yeah.
I will buy her dinner at Harvey's if I can ever
Come
figure
over.
out where the hell the damn place is.
Okay,
Come
that,
over and take
I
your
know where there's
Corn
one in
powder.
my
that was the right answer. That was the right answer.
Yeah. See,
Oh,
I know
remember-
where the Harveys is in my bloody town. It's Mississauga that's screwed up, man.
You know what? It's only a bloody town once a month. All right, so let's get back to the program.
Oh, he had
What
to
we're
go
trying
there.
to figure out is
Depends
why.
where you live.
Depends on if you use depends.
Thank you very much. I was about to get that one. So the question now is, why do people continue to hold on so desperately, even when we've been able to show you're wrong? It's wrong. And I you know what?
Fear.
Yeah,
Yes,
Here.
that's it.
that's
Can I-
it.
Be my guest.
It's kind of a tie-in because we're talking about community, we're talking about holding on to belief, we're talking about indoctrination. And I mean, one of our most basic instincts is survival. And part of that is learning to adapt to our environment. And that's what our parents, teach us to do. And if our environment is a community that we're taught to depend on for survival, then the parents are going to be concerned about protecting the children, so they're going to bring them into the faith too. Let's just say that religion is kind of like a life preserver that you're told that you're going to have to wear for your entire life and you can't live without it. Until, of course, you discover you're on dry land. So people will hang out together. I mean, they're basically people who are wearing the same type of life preserver, and they're just gathering for survival, in a way. I'm kind of trying to sum up kind of like a long spiel into something very short, but that's about the
That's
gist
okay.
of it.
Yeah,
And
man.
the lack of atheist the community is basically, well, it's people who have taken the responsibility of learning how to survive on their own. So they don't have this need to gather for survival out of fear, as Tech says. And there's not yet, like Jeremiah said, there's not yet a network where people can adapt to a new form of community, which is more related to your trade and kind of like friend circles. But there's nothing existing yet.
All right, Tech. Let me get you, and then Chris will get you.
There was a cartoon movie called The Croods. It was about a family of cave people, Cro-Magnon, if you will. And in the beginning of the movie, they point out that there were other families that existed, but they all got wiped out. And the only reason that their families still existed is because they abided by a certain set of rules. And those rules were fear everything, stay in the cave,
Yeah.
anything new is bad. And when I was first watching the movie, I noticed my son was having a great time with it, but I was looking at it from a different viewpoint, and I'm looking at that going, wow, sounds a lot like religion. And I realized that is religion right there. Anything new, it has to be by the powers that be, extremely scrutinized. Like when electricity came along with the Jewish culture, they had to figure out whether does this count as fire? You know, turning on when light bulbs came around, turning on a light counted as doing work because gathering wood on the Sabbath that you could die for that. Things like that. And so anybody who hasn't seen the movie The Croods, I urge you to go watch it. Rent the DVD or watch it on whatever your favorite method is. And if you've already seen it, go back and watch it again. And this time, look at it as the explanation. Look at it as they're explaining a religion, an old religion, and then compare it to a religion that either A, you've practiced, or B, that you've read up upon, or you get the idea. Yeah. And I think they'll understand right then and there that is exactly how religions came to be and why they're still prevalent to this day and age. Because fear, isn't it, like Joseph was pointing out, is an extremely strong driving force for self-preservation.
It's our default emotion to anything new as a human. I mean, even as a child, you're going to be afraid of like everything until mommy or daddy shows that actually you can trust this thing and you don't have to be afraid anymore. I mean, through our entire life, we're training our default emotion, which is fear, to get rid of it. That's how humans work. It's not only religion.
Yeah, we're gonna get around to that briefly in just a couple of seconds. But by the way, Tech, thank you. You just gave me my my closer over there. Chris, go ahead.
You're welcome.
I was just going to disagree slightly with Joseph there, as I'm not saying that fear,
as always,
particularly of like. Maybe fear or apprehension about losing a community or losing friends, family, whatever. If you leave, on there is no doubt a powerful thing, but people won't necessarily be something they'll be feeling whilst they're actually a welcome part of a community. There's a lot of positive feelings, emotions, etc. that goes through with being part of a group.
Because you feel safe.
Yeah, and so that's one thing. So I don't want to just say it's purely down to fear and that everyone who's going to church is terrified of everything outside. I think that may be a bit simplistic.
It's not necessarily
that's how they got into it.
And it's not necessarily a fear of things affecting them per se. Like I've mentioned before, I got into this sort of argument with my mother a few months ago, and I nailed her down to, I just need it. And I think to her, it's the fear of, because we lost my brother 10 years ago, and I think for her, it's the fear of thinking that she is actually never going to see her son again. And it's not necessarily a fear of something happening to her, it's the fear of, oh, now I actually have to finish grieving, right? Because where religion is involved, oftentimes I think the grieving process is truncated because they get to a certain point and then they just throw everything into, well, I'll see them in heaven, so I don't have to be that upset, or I can be done grieving for now because I'm going to see them again. So that was what she came up with, was I just need it, because I really hammered her. Yeah.
We should do a show dedicated to the concept of death and grief, secular viewpoints versus religious viewpoints, and where the benefits lie of each, if any.
for religion, it's more a placebo, because religion is all about protecting you from.
Bad
They want
things
to
from man.
adapt to society for you. They want to give you the guidelines. They want to adapt for you. But if you learn to adapt by yourself, then you don't have this fear. And
Yeah,
I would argue that
yeah.
these people don't even know they have this fear. They don't know they have this fear until you actually propose to them, well, what about leaving your religion? And then they'll feel it. But as long as they're within the community, they won't have that sense.
Yeah. How many people who are Christian have been told, look, if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to burn forever and ever? I mean, we're talking about eternal torture. We're talking about eternal pain and suffering. That scares the shit out of these people.
Yeah, by the way, hold on. Before we get past that one, I want you guys to know there's one person that I'm going to see about getting on the show in the hopefully near future. I want to get Jeff Dees to specifically talk about that one. Jeff Dees from the Atheist Experience of Austin previously and currently on the Nonprofits podcast. I want to specifically get him because whenever the "you're going to burn in hell" thing comes up, it is a visceral reaction that he gets from it. And rightly so. And again, that one's going to be later, so don't think that that one is going to go past us, because this one ties together very quickly and very, very tightly.
That ties into the whole death concept too that I was talking about.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, we're going to get.
Point?
Yeah, just
neuroscience shows us that in the human brain, the concept of the eternal soul, it's one and the same as its concept of life itself. So that's also a fear motivator.
There's that. I want to get you one more moment on this one, specifically Jeremiah, the fear thing, and we're starting to run pretty close on time, so I know that this one is touchy for a lot of people for a lot of ways, but fear is a huge motivator, whether it's for societal or personal. Having seen how the relationship was with Ashley and Bobby, and seeing how that's transformed in the time that you've been listening and becoming part of their close circle for their show, that fear, I'm assuming that you've pretty well seen that fear that they had for so much of this has just gone away. How has that been for you to experience that for them as a couple?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of Ashley's major transformation, I've mostly witnessed by listening, being a listener before being a full-time third member of the show.
Right.
And so anybody who wants to can see that. There is a lot of fear, and I think when I think of what Ashley is going through, a lot of it was not so much in exploring her identity, but a lot of what she's said she's feared is, when she went to ReasonCon the first time, she was afraid they'd be like scary, muscly bikers who hate life. They wouldn't accept her. I think she has been afraid of identifying as an atheist. That's absolutely not true anymore. But I think one of the biggest barriers was having that identity. And I think that's the biggest component of fear from my perspective is for every believer, their belief and worldview is their identity, even though now we can sort of separate it. Just going your whole life as a believer, as a Christian, for example, for me at least, and them, you are that belief, and erasing that identity is terrifying. And I think that's the major fear component. That's my opinion.
It makes sense. It's like, if I'm not a Christian, then what am I? Because you're oftentimes even if you're not necessarily indoctrinated, but you have that cultural identity as I'm a Christian. So if I'm not a Christian, then I have to figure out who the hell I am and figure out what all of that means. And a lot of people don't feel like they're afraid to do that because it takes a lot of introspection and learning who you are. But it's so much easier when somebody says, well, you're a Christian, so that means you're this, and this. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what I am. And it's, yeah.
Remaking your entire identity for yourself is terrifying. It is absolutely a revolution for one, as some people may have heard.
That's why it was so easy for me, I think, because it happened right at the exact same time that I was leaving for university. So I was already losing all my friends. I was already leaving the church group that I belonged to. I was already leaving home. Like, all of those things were going to happen anyway. So just
Leaving
going, yeah, everything was changing. I lost my boyfriend. We broke up. So all of that stuff was going away anyway. So being like, oh, I'm an atheist was just like nothing compared to everything else, because all of the stuff that scares the crap out of you was happening regardless of that. So I think that's why, because I know Beth and I joke all the time, you know, I became an atheist like boom overnight, and it took her 10 years to kind of go through the gambit of different styles of religion before she could say, yeah, I'm an atheist. But for me, it was so easy because, as I say, all of those things that really hold you back, where you say, but I'm afraid I'll lose my friends, or I'm afraid I'll lose my church, or I'm afraid I'll lose, you know, get kicked out of home or whatever. I was like, well, that's all happening anyway, so what the hell?
I like to make an analogy that that religious people are like birds who never leave the nest.
They are.
Say that, yeah.
And Mama Bird, it's really ironic because Mama Bird depends on the little ones to survive, yet she doesn't teach them how to fly on their own.
That's a great analogy, because that first leap, learning to fly.
Yeah. It's learning, this fear is like learning to survive on your own, like taking the responsibility, taking the decision. Like it's tied into our transition in adolescence. Normally we're supposed to start thinking critically at adolescence. We're supposed to take everything we learn to continue surviving on our own, to support our family or whatever. And religious people don't seem to make this transition.
Well, I think one of the problems there is, like, when you're dealing with like a small community or smaller community, yes, you may leave home, but you may be only moving to 6 blocks down.
Yeah.
You're still in contact with the same friends. You're still in contact with the same community that you've always been. Therefore, it can continuously be reinforced. Now, in Heretic's case, you left, and I mean you left big.
Yeah.
Like basically a whole new chapter. Same thing I did. I mean, I moved to provinces west. Suddenly realized I'm on my own.
Yeah. I mean, I only moved an hour away, but I went from, you know, backwoods small town Hicksville to a decent sized city with like 2 universities and a college, and you know, thousands of new people in a school and all of that. So even though geographically it wasn't very far, it was a huge departure.
And I think that's one of the key things, is the best way sort of to grow an atheist, if you will, is to get them to leave the nest.
Yeah.
Or teach them how.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're in a hyper-religious community like that, they'll never teach you how. You know, you have aspirations of going to college. How many of those religious parents are saying, no, you don't want to do that? You know, you go work at the sawmill or something like that.
Yeah, or in the case of the people that I was involved in the Calvinist sect, the girl who was my best friend, her major ambition in life was to go to Bible college. And what does a woman at a Bible college go for? Her MRS degree. right? That's all she wanted.
Okay, for those that don't understand what that is.
She went to land herself a good Christian husband. So regardless of whether she got any kind, and I don't think that their degrees were worth very much anyway, but whether she got any kind of academic degree out of it was irrelevant. All she wanted to go was at a Christian college that's, you know, similar denomination. She's pretty much guaranteed that the male stock are people that are going to be acceptable to her family and you know, that kind of thing. So that's the only reason she wanted to go to Bible college.
That seems to be one. Yeah, that seems to be one hell of an expensive dating strategy.
Well, I don't think Bible colleges cost as much as regular colleges or universities either. Like they're, if it was accredited, it wouldn't have been accredited for very much. So, you know, I like theology degrees or crap like that, and most of them were, you know, farmers and that sort of thing. But that's all she wanted. Like the academics were completely secondary to that. And that's like in I've heard it said like in Mormonism, if you're going to go to college and you're a Mormon, they want you to go to Brigham Young, one of the 3 Brigham Youngs, because they have a very, very strict Mormon-centric moral code. Everything, whether you're Mormon or not, you have to adhere to that or you get kicked out. Like if you are at Brigham Young University and you're single and you have sex, you could get kicked out of the entire academic program, which to me is ridiculous.
And I'm sure the fact that the Mormon Church owns those universities.
Well, that's exactly it. That's it.
Receiving all the fees has absolutely zero to do with it.
Well, exactly. Yeah. It's owned by the Mormon Church. It's the code of conduct is developed by the Mormon Church. It's an insular way that, okay, it's like if you insist on getting an education, let's send you somewhere where we know you're not going to get any of those highfalutin secular ideas. We're going to send you to a Mormon college where everything is Mormon, and we can insulate you as best as we can from, you know, independent thought.
Okay, so now you're starting to step on the toes I'm about to go into to close this out. Before we go, yeah, don't worry. Before we get to that, I'm gonna get everybody's last pieces to drop on this. Jeremiah, since you're our guest tonight, you get first stab on whatever piece you'd like to finish thoughts off with at this point of it all before I close this out.
Okay, well, final thoughts. You know, I think conversion and community go hand in hand, and I even know people who went through college, and I have a friend who's still very good and close to me who became a Mormon, who she converted to Mormonism after a life of very little religious influence, but it makes sense to me looking back because I've seen some of her. She used to post all these very nice, warm, fuzzy platitudes all the time, and if you're familiar with Mormon culture, they're all about like the sickly sweet style, which drives me nuts. But
it's,
you know,
gross.
I think a lot of it has to do with fear and everything we've covered. But you know, another thing to consider that may be a good discussion for another time is some communities just gel better with others, and it's a personality thing too. We don't. People being an atheist community may not appeal to the people who need the warm fuzzies if we're all into statistics and facts and stuff. So keep that in mind. Yeah.
Okay. Joey? I'm sorry. I'm going to come through this way. I'm going to get to you. Don't worry. Joey, what would you like to drop off with? This is not being very helpful for those on the audio.
Dead air is great.
I can't. Everybody's hit it so well tonight. I don't know.
Well, you come in late. That's what happens for you. Tech?
I was asleep.
It's fair enough.
I've been sick. Give me a break.
It's fair enough. Tech, what would you like to close out with?
For me, it's easy to see how people fall into religion. And I'm referring to the people who were not indoctrinated, but later on learned about it and ended up joining something. And that's because we have these feelings inside of ourselves and our emotions. And most people are not brought up to be self-analytical about their feelings and the context that is driving those feelings. And so when we get into a group of people and we suddenly start feeling really good about being with those people, we want to be there more and more and more and more. And we start to make associations. You know, the human brain is wired for patterns. So now we see this pattern of this group, this religion, feel good, that sort of thing, and that's part of how we fall into it. To use the rational side to realize that, hey, look, the only reason we're feeling good is because we're doing these activities which naturally stimulate these particular emotions, and we can do this without having to go to church or synagogue or temple or mosque or whatever it may be. We could do the same thing. Like, I get the same feel-good emotions I used to get by going to a Lutheran church by playing Dungeons and Dragons with a bunch of my friends. But I don't use Dungeons and Dragons as a religion. So, you know, it comes down to, you know, in my mindset, a large role of why people fall into it is partially education of oneself.
Fair enough. Bridget?
Yeah.
I know that you haven't had very much to say tonight, but assuming that the mute button is working correctly at this point, what would you like to close up with?
I think the thing that traps people into religion or drives them to it when they're older is fear. There is the fear of dying, and people are afraid of the unknown. Also, when people deconvert, it's scary as hell to realize that you're in charge of your life and there's not somebody else that's making those decisions and guiding your life. You don't have, you know, a God to pick you up when things go really bad. And that can be really frightening. Some people can't handle trying to make big decisions on their own. So they rely on a church or a group of people to tell them what to do.
All right. Chris, I know you've been chomping at the bit. Here's your chance on that one. Thanks for waiting, man.
Yeah, no problem. It was actually just going to be a callback for something I was going to ask Jeremiah. There are a couple of sort of metaphors used and expressions about the fear of losing your identity when you left the religion, and the other one was of sort of leaving the nest and learning to fly. I was going to ask, after when you left the faith, did you feel that you'd lost anything, or was sort of learning to fly sort of metaphor? Does that ring true at all?
Yeah, I mean, just finding your identity, and in that, like, my identity, my new one wanted to be find out what is the truth, not just a vacuous truth. So, and that was terrifying. So, nail on the head for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that was sort of all I had to sort of close out with.
Okay. Dallin, you get your opportunity too.
Well, it's funny talking about atheist communities or atheist groups in towns or in different cities, and do we even do stuff like that? The first Tuesday of every month here in Calgary, we have a thing called Skeptics in the Pub. It's actually it's a Facebook page as well. It's hosted by members of the local CFI. And I've had the opportunity to go there a few times. Unfortunately, my Tuesdays are now with other commitments. But what was really interesting is you walk in, even the waitresses had no idea what we were. They would see the placard for skeptics in the pub, but they had no idea what we were talking about. But I would get in, I would sit down, I would identify myself as a CFI member, and that was about the only religious-based anything that I said. These were just regular people. They were talking about their jobs, they were talking about their kids, they were talking about the movie they watched last night. Maybe once in a while they'll hit on current events, kind of like what we do here, or like what you do over a couple of beers, with friends. You hit something, hey, I saw this on Facebook yesterday, and suddenly you have a big discussion about it. And I mean, yeah, when you're first getting introduced to these people, you want to learn a bit about, okay, what brought you from there to sitting at this bar having a drink with me? But other than that, there's really nothing scary going on. And I think if we as a community overall could further project that kind of image, we're not monsters, we're not eating babies. Well, at least I'm not yet. Don't ask me what's in my fridge. So I think that's what a lot of it is that I even mentioned the word atheist around work, and 2 or 3 people will get their hackles off, and it's just because of we have to kind of drop the veil and show that we can be a community too. We're not quite the potluck supper kind of community, but hey, we can still make friends. I made a few here.
True enough. Heretic Woman, is your opportunity.
And I think what we said earlier about identity has a lot to do with it, and the idea that spending time to figure out who you are takes work. And a lot of people, when they're presented with what amounts to an easy out in the religion, it's like, hey, that's like a package deal. I could already know who I am and what I'm about if I just, glom on with these people. It makes it so much easier in a lot of ways, but on the flip side of that, you're giving up so much and reality in the first place, but you give up so much of who you are, who you actually are, and who you might become in doing that. But I think the fear is definitely true, but that kind of inherent laziness that a lot of us have goes along to that as well.
You're not giving up anything if you don't know that you have it in the first place.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Okay. Funny enough, at this point, yeah, Joseph, you get the last one before I close this up.
Oh, really? Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to make another analogy. I tried to find the emotional equivalent of religion. And if you imagine that life is a dark forest and you started traveling in a group, and you've got one person leading the group who knows the forest, knows how to survive. You're going to start your life depending on that person for your survival until you learn. And while you're doing that, you're going to be following everything that person does because they know the woods, they know what's dangerous, what's not, and you're going to be totally aware of them. But imagine that person goes away and you're on your own for survival. You're going to become suddenly self-aware. You're going to be afraid of everything that you haven't had the chance to experience yourself. I think that kind of describes both the responsibility and the fear that leaving religion brings up.
All right. So, where am I going to wrap us all up with? There's a couple of pieces that we have. No, it's quite all right. There's a lot of stuff that we've covered over, and again, to kind of apologize. Yeah, I know it takes a little while to get really into the piece of it all, but without the base of it all, it's kind of hard to really get the real timbre of it all. And what I am closing us up with is a piece of my past. of Joey's past, the Catholicism, because it's what I know best, because I lived through it. But it's not just the piece that I've got. One of the big things that makes it so incredibly hard to break out of any way of thinking is ideology. Talking about the Croods before, if you think of it in terms of religion, for me, you really have to think of it in terms of it being a cult. Why do you do these things? Because. That smells very highly of a cult. Now, can it be a religion too? Sure. There's no reason for it not to be. But it's a cult mostly because it is an ideology that is held up with force, first and foremost. Can you ask about stuff? Yeah, but then either you're out or you are censured one way or another. Where's the fear in this? One of our past hosts, Witchy Bunny, has spoken on, you go back to some of the early episodes, being part of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And yes, we've called it the J-Dubs before, and I don't know that I necessarily want to be doing that anymore. But with the Jehovah's Witnesses very specifically, because I needed to. With Jehovah's Witnesses, if you question too much, if you break out of the faith, you're on your own. Completely and utterly. You are no longer part of the church. You're no longer part of the family. By the tenets of the Jehovah's Witnesses, you are removed from the family.
Pushed out of the nest.
A family. It's not even pushed out of the nest.
Disfellowshipped?
That's the word for it. Thank you. And that happens with so many others. The Mormons, they do damn near the same damn thing. By the tenets, the Christians are supposed to do the same damn thing. And what does that do? If you're someone who is getting to the age of reason where because I said so is no longer enough, you get told, you cut it out, you're going to be out. Okay, you know what? That's it. I wash my hands of the affair. You're gone. Here's all your stuff. It's packed up in boxes. It's on the front stoop. And you have a choice. You either toe the line and you shut the F up, or leave now. Gone. Goodbye. Who the hell would ever want to do that to their kid? Doesn't matter what age. If someone is a teenager and you kick them out, the hell is wrong with you? Could you effectively kick them out at 16? In some states, in some provinces, yes, the age of majority does come that young. But if somebody is trying to make ends meet and you kick them out and they're a little older than that, that's unconscionable in the extreme, especially if they're teenagers who can't make their way. You want to talk about the fear? You fear losing everything. Your friends, your family, everything that you ever had, the culture that you grew up with. Even for us Catholics, even though we're no longer, we still recognize that the life events are the pieces that bind us societally. You're going to take that away? Because we were unsatisfied with because? The hell is wrong with you? And for those of you that are still wondering, should I question? If you don't think it's safe to do it, don't do it out where someone else can view it yet. When you can find your way away, when you can get yourself safely out, then by all means. But until that point, don't. As much as you want to be out there, don't. Because as we were talking about, self-preservation, that fear, is a powerful motivator. Use it to your advantage. Because Once you no longer have that fear of losing everything, then you can truly start living the way that you want to, the way that your conscience says that you should. And don't let anybody tell you what that's supposed to be. Learn it for yourself. Don't take it from us. Find out for yourself. Because learning who you are is the greatest adventure of them all. And it's going to scare the hell out of you and bring you such warmth all at the same time. But don't ever live it in fear, because that motivator works both ways. It'll keep you safe, but at the same time, the safest place, as we found out from that one movie, is to stay inside the cave all the time, away from everything else. It also keeps you away from the sun. As always, everyone, thank you very much for taking the time to spend it with us. We know that we're certainly not the lowest tier out there on the podcasting circuit, but we sure as hell ain't going to be winning any awards anytime soon. So thanks for recognizing that we've got something worthwhile and finding something worthwhile in what we talk about. Tonight, of course, I want to first and foremost thank Jeremiah. Jesus, I'm tired. I'm sorry.
No, it's Jeremiah, not Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Chris over there.
Weird fool you.
Yeah, along with my other resume points, I am a Jesus impersonator. So, but thanks for having me on.
Please plug all of the things, because I obviously cannot be trusted with talking right now.
Yeah, so no religion required. Listen to us live Sundays at 7, or find us on a podcatcher. You'll find us somewhere. Follow me on Twitter at The Prophet Jeremiah, Facebook page, The Prophet Jeremiah. I post memes and other crap. That's all I really have to plug, but thanks.
No, man, it's been truly my pleasure and my honor to get you. I mean, I was talking with the guys earlier. We don't get the chance to have the hosts for various different podcasts and vlogcasts. You know, we've traded off on occasion, but I don't believe that we have the co-hosts share off nearly as much as what we should, and you guys are as much a part of it all as everybody else, and thank you for taking the time to come and spend part of your time with us. Really means a lot.
The pleasure's all been mine, so thanks.
Well, obviously you really don't know what in the hell you're talking about at this point. You really need to have more alcohol.
I mean, what else would I have to do on a Saturday night? You know, whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're a student. What the hell?
Yeah, you should be comatose.
Close enough. Joseph, thank you very kindly for your time, of course. Have a great morning.
You too, sir.
Calls me sir. Guy put on a collared shirt. Suddenly it's surfer. I will take you off in a mosh pit any day, my friend.
I'll still call you sir.
Might be for a completely different reason, but that's another story entirely.
Take that, sir.
Woohoo!
No, not. I was thinking more along the lines of "Thank you, sir. May I have another?"
Yes, I caught that. Yeah.
After the show.
Went there, huh?
Yeah.
Chris, thank you. Have yourself a good morning.
Yeah,
Seems like
thank
your
you.
video running again. There it is.
Yeah, it's been great being back here after a couple of weeks break. Unusually, a couple of things to plug this week. The first is for anyone listening in the UK, Manchester Science Festival is running from 22nd of October through to the beginning of November. I'll be there for the various events and panels as a part of the audience for as much of it as I possibly can be. And the other thing is if you're in the northwest of the UK anywhere, we've got some really great skeptics and humanist groups in both Liverpool and Manchester on there with a load of great people, so including myself whenever I can make it.
Alrighty.
So feel free to come along if you're in those areas.
Very cool. Undernote Tech, you have yourself a good morning and get some rest, man. I hope you feel better soon.
I'll feel better. I usually shake this stuff off. But it was good to be here and meet new people, person. And yeah, we should do this next week again.
I'll see what I can do about that.
All right. And by the way, that was really slick how you tied the crudes into your closing right there.
I told you, man. You gave me a good piece.
We got to stop doing this because people are going to start to wonder if how much alike we actually think.
Considering where we originally met, we'll talk about that later.
No kidding.
Joey, thank you, man, and I hope you are getting proper rest as opposed to just sleep. Huh?
Yeah, well, what can you do? Probably would do a little better if I tried to sleep, at one solid point instead of, taking an hour, 2 hours before trying to jump on things like this, but...
I'm pretty sure there's someone there who could, smack you off the mind time that you go down for eight good hours.
Probably.
I can talk.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything big enough.
I'm sure I can smuggle you over some NyQuil a little bit later. How's that? He knows where I'm going. We'll save it for later.
I'm trying to hold it back.
Yeah, he is. I know what he's doing.
Of 10.
I see what you did there.
Yep.
You just had to...
I'm sorry. NyQuil, we love you, you giant Q.
By the way, for those of you that don't know about it, I run a couple of DJ gigs, and my DJ rule number 0 is the DJ is a dick. That would be me.
I was going to say, you just had to poke him.
I had to do it. Bridget, thank you, hon. You have yourself a great night. Good morning, and welcome back, hon.
Oh, thank you. I want to throw a shout out, just in case anybody needs this that has listened to this show tonight. There is something called the Hotline Project that Recovering from Religion runs for people who are starting to question their faith, or they're scared to leave, or they just need someone to talk to. And the number to the hotline is 1-844 I doubt it. Or if you want the numbers, it's 1-844-368-2848.
Thank you so much, hon. Excellent. Heretic Woman?
Yes.
Okay, let's set the timer on you and see how long this is going to take. Is this going to be done inside of a glacial time now?
Yes.
Plug all the things in.
Okay.
You know what she could do to shorten it is just take the water bottle and write everything on it and then show the
No.
I could, that
get it all in one screen caption.
Could be easier, but of course Mondays at 9:30 Eastern is Beyond the Trailer Park with Miss Ashley and Beth and myself, and this week we're going to be talking to Zach from the Zacrilege podcast, so that should be fun. I've been on his show like 3 times already, so I figured it might be nice if I had him on mine once in a while.
I've had you on many more times than that.
Well, there is, yes. But I'm not officially part of his thing. So yeah, there is that. There's My Secular Savior at mysecularsavior.com. And as I mentioned earlier, Atheist Apocalypse is going to be dropping a new episode on Monday, episode 5, and some French guy is going to be in that episode.
I forgot to plug it, sorry.
I know! I'm going to tell Paul on you. So, yes, Joseph will be debuting his character Fabrice in episode 5 that comes out on Monday. If you're a patron, you already have listened to it. So if you're not, become one. And I think I always seem to forget something, but I know that I can.
We'll figure it out later. We'll go with that.
It's good. And on my Twitters, if you're watching the video all along, all my Twitters have been floating by. So it's at Beyond TT Park, at AA Podcast Show, and at Heretic Woman, yeah. Anyway, look at the video. It's cool.
There you go.
All of the @signs.
Yep.
Yes.
And Dallin, of course, good to have you back. I'm glad that all your traveling went safely, and
Yep.
good to have you, man. Have a good morning.
Yeah, so far so good. No travel plans in the future, at least not yet. I do want to plug one thing though.
Please.
This actually happened. A radio personality that I used to listen to a lot here is going to be speaking next week at None of the Above. It's the Alberta Secular Conference taking place next week, Saturday, October 17th through to Sunday, October 18th, and it is in Red Deer, Alberta. So I don't know if I'll make it, but anybody who's watching who just happens to be out west here, you might want to check it out. The guy's name is Rob Breckenridge. He's a talk radio personality, if such a thing exists. But I've listened to him quite a bit. Great guy to listen to on the radio. Great pundit type person. Yeah, it'd be worth going up there and actually doing a meet and greet with the guy.
Very cool. All
One
right,
other thing I just wanted to say, if you live in Canada, on next Monday, get your hiney out and vote already, because we need to get rid of this idiot in office. So, like, get out there and vote, please.
So we vote out one idiot and vote in one of the other two idiots?
Well, yes, but, you know, the lesser of three idiots.
I don't know. All I'm saying is that I wish I was as slim as the pickings are for the election, okay?
Yeah, me too. Me too.
This is what happens. Hey, at least look at the bright side. At least Cthulhu is not on the ticket this year.
I would vote for Cthulhu.
It'd be a better choice. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
Yes. I can just see it. Calamari for everybody. That's a calamari in every pot. I think I'm borrowing from FDR.
My fiance would love that.
We'll see how that plays out. Anyway, for those of you that would like to follow us, of course, on all of the places, you can just find us on most social media under /Holy Crap the Vlogcast. Under Twitter, it's at Holy Crap TV. And if you go finding us over on Facebook, we're currently at 73 likes. It'd be really nice to break that century mark. You know, it's been a year and a half. You got no excuses. Of course, you don't have any real reason to go ahead and do it, other than it would make me nice and happy. You like me smiling, don't you?
Well,
I know it's creepy as hell.
They have plenty of excuses. For example, you know, they're busy watching much better shows than this.
I'm sorry, Joe. I think you break.
Running away!
Anyway, if you'd like to send some messages our way, of course, by all means, send it over to podcast@holycrapthevlogcast.com. And if you'd like to break in the voice line, which probably gets some use eventually, the phone number for that is 859-HCTV-554. Number again is 859-4288-554. Thank you. And I don't normally do this, but I'm going to kind of bring back around for a couple of seconds. The 5-minute freestyle, if for whatever reason you missed it over, please go back and re-listen. There are a lot of friends and family that our hearts go out to from the last couple of weeks. We're with you. May not always feel like it, but we're with you. Just always remember, it's okay to feel lonely, but just always remember, you're not alone. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. And, of course, I say my goodnights for all of you, and I say my goodnights for my lady, too. And in this case, for Dr. Bill, who we lost 6 years ago this month. Well, last month. Matane Fujin, I love you and I miss you. Dream of me. And of course, as always, until the next time we get together, everyone, good night.